Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Monday Review. Before we take a deep dive into this weekend's action, I wanted to say a big thank you to everyone for the good response to the first edition of this. It's something I wanted to do a lot more of, just reviewing sort of meetings I've been to and all the big meetings I go to throughout the course of the flat season. There's lots to talk about, as always is the norm through the flat season. So it was nice to see demand there for this, and very thankful for some of the nice comments in response to it. So long may it continue, and hopefully we can build up a nice sort of series of this between now and October when it gets to the culmination of the flat season at British Champions Day. Now, I was at Lingfield for the Oaks and Derby trials. My initial reaction is surprised. I think we saw an element of surprise to the Derby trial winner and, of course, to the Oaks trial winner. Do I think they've made any sort of impact to the pictures of both classics next month at Epsom? Probably not. I don't think we saw a Derby or Oaks winner there at Lingfield over the weekend. I'm not saying the two winners respectively can't win one either of those races, but I don't think we have. Um, Before we touch upon those classic trials, it was bitterly disappointing to see what happened to Hidden Law in the Chester Vase during the week. He was perhaps the 3-year-old emerging as a serious Derby contender, and the way in which he quickened up at Chester in that Chester Vase was mightily impressive. And it's just a terrible shame what happened after the race. It's something I've just never seen before, going over a path and breaking down in such a manner. It's just heartbreaking for the whole team, Godolphin, Charlie Appleby, and I think they've lost a real superstar. They're a potential superstar, and they've I can imagine it's a very sad sort of a week in particular, really losing such a 3-year-old whose ceiling was untapped. Really, he had so much untapped potential. We only just saw a slight glimpse of that at Chester, so it's bitterly disappointing, of course. And we wish him, the whole Godolphin team, all the very best with that tragic outcome with Hidden Law during the week. Now, the Derby trial was run on Saturday. Going into the race, my thoughts were well, it was a fairly wide open trial, I thought, really. We had the Derby trial runner up at Epsom in the Blue Ribbon Trial Defiance in here. We had the likes of the Euphrates, we had Illinois, we had Meydan. So there was plenty of points to prove going into this. And it was won in very comfortable style by Ambiente Friendly. I think what impressed me the most about him was the nature in which he put this field away pretty comfortably. And he won ease down, which for a Derby trial, for a horse who got beaten in the field and over a mile two at Newmarket last time, I didn't expect this at all. It caught me off guard. I like the way in which he travelled through the race. He negotiated the bend very comfortably. And Callum Shepherd was just in the best position all the way round. He tucked in behind the pace early on. They went into the first turn pretty quickly. It was a bit messy, but it all unfolded very nicely for Ambiente Friendly. He picked up really well and won ease down, as I said. And when you win a trial like that so convincingly, you book your ticket for Epsom, you have to take your chances. I think he's now best priced 8 to 1 from hundreds for the Derby. And it'll be great to see Callum have a good Derby ride. He's a fantastic jockey. He's had a great winter over in Bahrain. He won the Palace House Stakes 2 weeks ago now on 7 questions for Jules Scott. And his good momentum's just rolled into this season. But Ambiente Friendly for me, is he my idea of a Derby winner? I'm not too sure. We've still got a couple more trials to come during the week at York with the Musadora for the Fillies and, of course, the Dante for the Colts. There's still a couple more trials to play out before we can sort of assess everything going into next month's Classics. But the way in which he won was very impressive, and he surely now must take his chance for James Fanshawe. And I do believe that will be James's first Derby runner for 30 years. So what a fantastic occasion for James going into next month's Classic with very much a live chance here. Now, the Lingfield Derby trial itself doesn't tend to throw up a Derby winner. I think the stat was going into this weekend, only 2 Derby winners have won this trial before going to Epsom this century. The last horse to achieve that big double was, of course, Anthony Van Dyke in 2019. So this Derby trial in particular is not one you pinpoint and look at and think, well, we're going to see a good, strong Derby contender here. It doesn't tend to happen, really. But Ambiente Friendly, he's definitely booked his ticket to Epsom and goes with what would be a very good chance should he get there in one piece. I thought Illinois ran pretty well in second. He's not a Derby contender for me. I don't think he's actually in the Derby anymore either. I thought he'd be more of a Queen's Vase type of horse or a horse over a longer trip. Very physically imposing. He's a well-built horse. Took well in the prelims as one who might get improved for a trip. And he ran accordingly, I think, there as well. Again, the same for Meydan. I thought he ran very well. I've always thought that Meydan would be a better horse on the galloping track. I didn't think he acclimatised or was suited to Newmarket last time. The undulations and the dips sort of caught him out. I thought he finished okay at Newmarket last time. I sort of get a similar vibe to Chess Piece with Meydan. Of course, Chess Piece was beaten first time out last year. He went to York for the mile 3 handicap and won. Bit of a cliche being a group horse in a handicap. He proved out to be that before going on to the likes of Glorious Goodwood, getting beaten there narrowly and then running in the St Ledger. I think Meydan could get further in time. I thought he ran very well here, finished off his race fairly strongly. I thought there was no sort of indication he was flagging towards the end of the race. I think he's an exciting horse going forward, and I think even long term he might make into a nice cut ball, similar to that route that Chess Piece has gone down now this season as well. So I think he's one just to keep on the right side of still on the galloping track. I don't think he'd be suited to Epsom. Looking at how he ran at Newmarket last time, Epsom's a very sort of unique track. The camber sort of pulls you down to the rail. I'm not too sure if Maidan's got the balance for Epsom, but it'd be interesting to see where they go next. He does hold an entry for the King Edward at Royal Ascot too, and I think that perhaps more tailor-made for him. A more galloping track like Ascot with a slight stiff finish would be more suited to Maidan's chances going forward. I was disappointed with Defiance there. It's a big hit to Bellum Justum's blue ribbon trial there. I expected Defiance to build upon that good run at Epsom last time and at least hit the frame in this, but that's clearly or surely now all but his Derby chances all but gone now after such a disappointing run. He was well fancied for this 2 at 7 to 2. So it was disappointing to see the fights run so poorly. Now, the Oaks trial was very interesting to me. We saw a nice winner, a very game and gutsy winner in You Got To Me, who was given a fantastic ride by Hector Crouch, an attacking, positive ride. She strung the field out pretty early on, and it looked as though nothing from in behind was going to get to her at one point. Hector was fairly clever, turning for home, filling up, and allowing the field to stack up in behind, and she fended off all comers to win narrowly. Ruby Red was, of course, the obvious eye catcher in this. Turning for home, she was about 12 lengths off the winner, and she flew home to finish a very good second. I'd like to see her go to Epsom next time, but ridden a bit more attackingly, perhaps sat next to the winner. I think had she been a bit more further forward, she wins this trial fairly comfortably. But because she came from an absolute mile back, all of her best work was done at the finish, and it was a very eye-catching run from Ruby Red. She's now 8-1, I think, for the Oaks, and I think she's going to have a good chance there. And I think Ballydoyle have got a very strong hand in that, with how well Ylang ran in the Guineas, a very good classic Epsom trial for her. And I've always thought she would be one who's going to be better over a longer trip, over a mile and a half this season. And I think the way she shaped in the Guineas, she's going to be very hard to beat in that Oaks as well. And again, You Got To Me was very gutsy. I thought a worthy winner. Hopefully, she takes her chance now at Epsom as well. Danielle was one who I thought coming into this race would not be suited by the ground. She's by Cracksman, of course. Cracksman himself was a better horse with a bit of dig in the ground, as we all saw. She's not very big, and looking at the prelims, she wasn't very big compared to Ruby Zared, who went out in front of her. Ruby Zared was more physically developed at this stage of her career compared to Danielle, who visually looks very nice, but her frame's not very big. So I wonder if she's still got to fill out her frame going forward. She through the early part of the race, I didn't think she liked the ground at all, but she ran okay. I didn't think there was any sort of negativity there around her. She's ran her race. I think everyone just got slightly carried away with how well she won at Wetherby last time on debut in that soft ground. Is she a notes contender for me? Probably not. I think she does hold an entry in the Ribblesdale at Royal Ascot. I think that'd be more her sort of race, really. I think, but I'm not Anthony Oppenheimer or Jonathan Haley Gosden. They make the choices, and I'm just here to sort of talk about things like that. And again, I thought Treasure, the Royal runner in that race, ran a decent race in fourth. I think she'll be a nice filly to keep an eye on going forward long term. See where she ends up next. Again, similar to a lot of these fillies, she holds an Oaks and Ribblesdale entry. She might take up either one of those. She looked very nice in the prelims, and I thought she ran a very sound race and looks to be one with a future ahead of her. Earlier on the card, I thought Americ was a very nice winner of the Class 2 handicap at like 150. I think he's very much a horse who will be operating in better company over the course of the summer. Being by Frankel, he finished off his race really well here, stayed on very eye-catchingly, and looks to be one who I think we'll see in better company. I think Roger Varian's got a very nice horse here and continues Roger's good start to the season. Of course, with the likes of with Chingarin and El Malka as well, winning the 1,000 guineas. It's been a great start to Roger's season. And I'm interested to see if Charing goes to the Lockinge at the weekend. He's been in fantastic form this season. If he goes to the Lockinge and runs well, I think he could be a contender for a Queen Anne at a big price. It wouldn't shock me at all if he went to Royal Ascot off the back of a good run at Newbury and he were to hit the frame at a big price in that Queen Anne hopefully next month. So it'll be all eyes on Saturday for Charing, see how he gets on ahead of potentially a Royal Ascot date with at the Queen Anne next month. Looking through some of the rest of the classic trials, or the classic races, I should say, the French 2,000 and 1,000 guineas were yesterday. Henry Longfellow, of course, was bitterly disappointing in the end. It just didn't happen for him. He was given a very conservative ride. He looked for his gaps. They didn't come in the end. And he finished a very disappointing eighth in the end. I thought Diego Velazquez ran okay. Lancing Gemini ran an absolute screamer in the end for Roger Till and Dylan Brown McMonagle. Just missed in the end behind Metropolitan, who looks to be a nice horse. There's talk of Metropolitan coming to Royal Ascot potentially. He currently doesn't hold an entry in the St James's Palace, but I think he'd have to be supplemented for that. If he does come to the St James's Palace, it would add a very interesting angle into this potentially. We could have the potential clash of the notable speech possibly going against Rosalian and Hartim in a potential rematch of the 2,000 guineas at Newmarket. You had Metropolitan in there, Dancing Gemini in there. even Henry Longfellow in there. It makes into a very interesting race over that round mile at Royal Ascot next month. So it'd be interesting to see what happens there in terms of the sort of 1 mile picture for the 3-year-olds. Now, sticking with the 3-year-olds, there's been some talk off the back of the classics and the trials over the last couple of weeks, especially with how big a price the horses who won the classics have been. There's been some talk of, is this a vintage crop of 3-year-olds? Is the 3-year-old crop any good? I think it's still too premature to say at the moment. I can completely understand why people are saying it. Looking from the outside, you'd easily question it's not the best crop of 3-year-olds. Plenty of reputations and good reputations have been burst pretty early on this season, and the classics haven't proved too much of an indicator as to what we could see going forward. I think the 2000 Guineas winner and the second, a notable speech, and Rosalie, and the two very nice colts going forward. I thought notable speech to do what he done, not race as a 2-year-old, winning his 2000 Guineas on his first turf start was mightily impressive. It shows he's got plenty of ability going forward, and I think that in hindsight, with the benefit of a prep run, I thought Rosalie might have been a bit closer. Would he have beaten a notable speech? I don't think he would have, but I think it would have been a bit more of a better effort from Rosalie. And despite running so well, I think with a prep run behind him, he might have seen a better horse going forward. But I'm pretty sure we'll see a rematch of those two somewhere along the line this season, whether it be at Royal Ascot, Goodwood, even an eclipse with some of the older horses coming into it as well, which would be really good to see the clash of the generations going forward. But that'll be one to sort of keep an eye on. And as I said, look, I'm not too sure really what to think of the 3-year-olds at the moment. I still think it's fairly early on. I think when we get to about July time, it will give us a bit more of an indication as to what we've seen. Look, with City of Troy, we've seen Aidan O'Brien today measuring his size to try and prove to people that he's a big horse. I didn't know what to make of that, really. I think they're clutching at straws that he didn't run very well at Newmarket. It's one of those things. It's happened. If he's going to go to the Derby now, hopefully we'll see a much better City of Troy in the Derby. But to do all of these sort of things, to try and measure him to show that he's not a small horse, we all saw in the paddock he looked very small compared to the rest of the 3-year-olds. I thought it was clutching at straws, really. I don't understand why it's been done. And it's just perhaps a simple case of trying to cling on to any sort of stud value. That if he wins a derby, then his stud value will still be there. Of course, it will, like August Rodin's was. But to sort of measure him in front of the whole media this morning, to me, just seemed a bit petty, really. And it's look, his Newmarket run, it's happened. He didn't run very well, and I just think you just have to put a line through that. Looking ahead now to the French 1000 as well. That was a very interesting race on Sunday, won by the Aga Khan filly Rahia, and she just narrowly ran down Kathmandu, and an absolute cracker for Brian Mean in the end and Sean Levy. They've gone agonisingly close there, and Kathmandu's built upon what I thought was a very solid run in the Nell Gwyn behind Pretty Crystal and also Dance Sequence at Newmarket a couple of weeks ago. She's really moved forward and emerged as what could be a very nice filly for a coronation or something like that over the course of the summer. She ran an absolute cracker there, and she just goes down narrowly behind a very smart filly as well, who was actually a massive price in the end. She wasn't really fancied at all, and she's actually won very comfortably, picked up very well in the end. And who knows where she could go next, but she looks to be a filly who you'd like to hope can go on to achieve better. You'd hope it ain't a sort of fluke, sort of classic win, which we can sort of see in the past, but you'd hope that she can go on to bigger and better things. And who knows what the future holds for her. But that was the Monday Review episode 2. I'll be back next week reviewing all of the current goings on at Newbury for the lock-in, and also some of the Sunday series of racing at Newmarket on Sunday. But an interesting week regarding the classic pictures. Plenty of shape starting to take. We'll find out more of the sort of classic pictures for the Oaks and Derby this coming week now at York as well. So hopefully by then we'll find out and have a bit more of a clearer picture. People forget that we didn't actually see an Oaks winner this time last year until we saw Soul Sister win the Musadora so well before she went to Epsom and won the Oaks. So there's plenty still to sort of play for at the moment in terms of those classics. And it'd be good to sort of get a bit more of a clearer indication after this week at York. So hopefully then we'll see you all next week for the third episode. And take care, guys.